What's up guys, Joey here, Fugatech, and yeah, it's here. This is our list of our top picks for flagship smartphones in the Philippines for late 2019. So this is basically the culmination of our favorite flagship phones from the entire year. Now to set the parameters, of course, first of all of these phones are officially or readily available in the Philippines. For this list, we won't be having any top 10 rankings, but each of these phones will have their own titles as to what they do best. And for sure, there might be some of you out there who you have like favorite flagship phones that aren't part of this list. So as always, take this list with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, the money is yours. So our first flagship phone for this list is the Vivo Next 3. Alright, so the Next 3, we're giving it the title of Cool Innovative Design. Because of course it has that 6.89-inch Full HD Plus waterfall POLED display with virtual buttons on the sides. Of course, right now it's not the only phone anymore that has those virtual buttons because we have the Mate 30 Pro, but we think it's a cool innovation for smartphone display technology, and honestly, Vivo did it much better than Huawei. It comes with the latest and greatest Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset, got a triple rear camera setup, a 64-megapixel main, 13-megapixel telephoto, and 13-megapixel ultra-wide. As a Vivo signature, it also has a 16-megapixel pop-up front camera. For battery, you get a 4,500 mAh capacity with support for 44-watt super flash charge. Now, the Vivo Next 3 with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage will set you back 39,999 pesos. Next up, we have the Xiaomi Mi 90 Pro, aka the Redmi K20 Pro. Now, this one is the best bang for your buck smartphone of this year, I think, which makes it deserve a top spot in our top flagships list. You got a 6.39-inch Super AMOLED 1080p display, Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset, 48-megapixel Sony IMX586 main sensor, 13-megapixel ultra-wide, 8-megapixel telephoto, 20-megapixel shooter in the pop-up light-up selfie camera that we've grown to love. You got that super edgy, fiery design at the back, 4,000 mAh battery with 27-watt fast charging. This guy's got 6GB of RAM but 2 storage variants. The 64GB variant will cost you 18,990 pesos, while the 128GB variant will cost you 20,490 pesos. Next up is the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So definitely the iPhone 11 Pro Max is the best iPhone period for this year. You get a 6.5-inch OLED screen with a resolution of 2688 by 1242. It's powered by the Apple A13 Bionic, their latest chipset. You get triple rear 12-megapixel cameras, that's a main, an ultra-wide, and a telephoto. The first time Apple's ever done this. Up front, you got a 12-megapixel selfie camera and a 3D camera for face unlock. You have a 3,969 mAh battery with 18-watt fast charging and Qi wireless charging. You got 4GB of RAM. Now this guy's got 3 storage variants. The 64GB variant will set you back 73,990 pesos. The 256GB variant will set you back 82,990 pesos. And the 512GB variant, which is the biggest, will set you back 95,990 pesos. Next up is another iPhone. It's the iPhone 11. So if the 11 Pro Max is the best iPhone period, the base iPhone 11 is pretty much the best iPhone for most people. It's got a smaller 6.1-inch Liquid Retina IPS screen with a lower resolution, albeit at 1792 by 828, but you still got that Apple A13A Bionic chip. You still got the dual 12-megapixel main plus ultra-wide cameras, minus the telephoto. You still got the 12-megapixel selfie camera and 3D camera for face unlock, and you have a 3,110 mAh battery with support for 18-watt fast charging, Qi wireless charging, and because of that battery, that good software hardware optimization, that low resolution screen, the iPhone 11, just like its predecessor the XR, has some of the best battery life you can get in an iPhone. And as an added bonus, this guy comes in a lot of different colors. So for the iPhone 11, you get 3 storage variants again. The 64GB variant will set you back 47,990 pesos. The 128GB variant will set you back 50,990 pesos. And the biggest one, the 256GB variant, will set you back 56,990 pesos. The next one's kinda controversial, but we're leaving it in here. It's the Huawei Mate 30 Pro. Now, the Mate 30 Pro has 2 titles, unfortunately. It's both the photography powerhouse and the unlucky child. I'm sure you know why. So this one's got a 6.53-inch OLED display at Full HD Plus resolution. You got the latest Kirin 990 chipset. It's got an insane set of cameras. A 40-megapixel main, 40-megapixel ultra-wide, 8-megapixel telephoto that can get up to 30x digital zoom, a 32-megapixel front camera, and you get a 3D time-of-flight camera on both sides. It's also got a huge 4,500 mAh battery with support for 40-watt Huawei Supercharge, 27-watt fast wireless charge, and reverse wireless charging. So it's the unlucky child because Yes, you get EMUI 10 out of the box, but no Google Play support natively. Now, the Mate 30 Pro in the Philippines has 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. It will set you back 50,990 pesos. Next up, we got the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Of course, the title for this one is gonna be the Swiss Army Knife. It can pretty much do it all. You get a 6.8-inch QHD Plus dynamic OLED display. We get the Exynos 9825 chipset, but for our friends in the US, they get the Snapdragon 855. For cameras, you get a 12-megapixel main, 16-megapixel ultra-wide, 12-megapixel telephoto, plus a 3D time-of-flight camera. Up front is a 10-megapixel selfie shooter. Of course, we call it the Swiss Army Knife partly because it's got that signature Samsung S Pen. It's got a huge 4,300 mAh battery with support for 45-watt fast charging, 20-watt wireless fast charging, and reverse wireless charging. Now, the Note 10 Plus has 12GB of RAM but comes in two storage configurations. The 256GB variant will set you back 60,990 pesos, while the 512GB variant will set you back 72,990 pesos. Next on this list is the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. So this phone we're calling the all-arounder. It's got a 6.3-inch QHD Plus dynamic OLED display. For the chipset, you get the Exynos 9820, or in the US, you get the Snapdragon 855. For cameras, same as the Note 10 Plus, you get a 12-megapixel main, 16-megapixel ultra-wide, 12-megapixel telephoto, but without the time-of-flight camera. Unlike the Note 10 Plus, though, we get dual selfie cameras. That's a 10-megapixel main selfie shooter and an 8-megapixel depth sensor. Now for battery, we get a fair 4,100 mAh with 15-watt fast charging. Now there's two configurations for the S10 Plus. That's 8GB of RAM plus 128GB of internal storage. That'll set you back 55,990 pesos. Or 12GB of RAM plus 1TB of internal storage. That's for the limited edition. That will set you back 89,990 pesos. Next one for the gamers out there, it's the Asus ROG Phone 2. Of course, we're calling this one the ultimate gaming device. So the ROG Phone 2 comes with a nice 6.59-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display that runs at 120Hz. You got the Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset. Now the cameras on this device are less important, but it does have a 48-megapixel Sony IMX586, plus a 13-megapixel ultra-wide and a 24-megapixel selfie camera. And what makes it the ultimate gaming device, aside from the high refresh rate display and powerful chipset, is you get things like the Air Triggers 2.0, you get the front-facing stereo speakers, and you get loads of gaming accessories. Also, to keep your sessions running long, you have a 6,000 mAh battery with support for 30-watt ROG Hypercharge. Now this guy's got 12GB of RAM and 512GB of internal storage. That will set you back 49,995 pesos. And finally, we have our last item on this list. It's the OnePlus 7T Pro. So this phone we're gonna be calling the in-betweener because it's got the best of both worlds, I think. You get a lot of premium flagship features that a lot of the more expensive phones have, but you don't have to pay upwards of 50 or 60,000 pesos to get those features. It's got a 6.67-inch QHD Plus AMOLED display with a refresh rate of 90Hz. You got the Snapdragon 855 Plus chipset. It's a 48-megapixel Sony IMX586, 16-megapixel ultra-wide, 8-megapixel telephoto, and up front you have a 16-megapixel Sony IMX471 front camera that pops up. You get a 4,085 mAh battery with support for warp charge, which is the fastest charging we've seen personally. And the cherry on top, you get Oxygen OS 10 based on Android 10 right out of the box. Now over at Digital Walker, this guy will set you back 42,990 pesos. That's for 8GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. Alright guys, so that wraps up our list of our top picks for flagships in late 2019. If there's a phone you think should be on this list, leave it in the comments down below. And of course, be sure to watch our other top lists for late 2019. We have lists on under 25,000 pesos, under 15,000 pesos, and under 10,000 pesos. Links in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit the bell icon to miss new future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Joey, and I'll see you guys in the next one.